As a new parent, you may be feeling many emotions, including joy and excitement, but also nervousness and anxiety as well. All of this is totally normal. Whether this is your first or third baby, there are many uncertainties and joys and challenges for you and your baby in the weeks and months ahead.
We fed her, changed her diaper, and she's just, screaming. And, I felt like we were having a standoff. I was just looking down at her in just sheer frustration, like I have no idea what to do.
One aspect of a new baby's development that can be particularly challenging and frustrating is crying. Most parents do not realize how much crying their baby will do, and they do not expect how frustrating that crying can be on them. It's one of the very first hard lessons of parenthood. The period of purple crying, understanding your baby's crying.
There were always times where when she was crying, I couldn't get her to stop. I had to just put her down and get out of there because I was starting to lose my temper.
We were laid in the guest room and we said, is this life now? Are we ever going to sleep again? And we were just having a very real discussion about, are we capable of this? Did we make a mistake? Are we fit to be parents?
All babies go through a normal developmental phase in the first months of life, where they increase the amount of crying that they do. This increased crying in otherwise healthy babies is often described as colic. However, the word colic can lead parents to believe something is wrong with their baby when there isn't anything wrong at all.
When you talk to friends and family too, everybody gives you all these ideas oh, do this, or your baby has colic, so give them gripe water. So I feel like there's a lot of people giving their little 2 cents, and it doesn't really help any. It just makes you feel more stressed because you try it. There are things that worked for their baby or whatever. And you have to find what kind of works for your baby.
And when I learned about the term colic, I had never heard that before. I was raised around several babies. I just thought, okay, that she's just going to be angry.
Being told that there is something wrong with your baby can add to the frustration you feel from the crying. We avoid using the term colic for that reason and refer to the increased crying as the period of purple crying. However, although most babies do not have something wrong that is causing the crying, babies will cry if they feel crummy or have an illness. If you are concerned about your baby's crying, it's always appropriate to see your healthcare provider to make sure your baby is otherwise well. Seeking support and confirmation of your baby's well-being is a great thing to do when you worry.
Right when the sun started going down, she would get fussy, and I would just look at the clock and dread the end of the day. I was like, I don't know how long this is gonna last or why we had a baby. That was kind of hard for me at first. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be that hard.
When you're sleep deprived, you haven't eaten, you're doing everything you can. It's extremely important to know how to manage your emotions and to know what to expect. And if you get lucky and don't have a baby that cries, that's great.
We call the increased crying that otherwise healthy babies do in the first few months of life the period of purple crying. Purple is an acronym to help you remember the characteristics of the crying that can make parents and caregivers worried and frustrated. The first P in the word purple stands for peak pattern. Starting at about 2 weeks, crying will usually begin to increase, peak in the second or third month, and then decrease. The crying can be either a lot or a little at the time of peak crying. The U is for the fact that most of this crying is unexpected. It starts and stops for no apparent reason. This unexpected crying is very frustrating for parents because they can't predict or prepare for it, and it can feel uncontrollable. The R is for the fact that some crying may be resistant to soothing. Your baby may be fed, they may have a clean diaper, and they may continue to cry despite your soothing efforts. This is because some crying is unsoothable. You should still try to soothe your baby using the 7 principles of soothing described in the Crying, Soothing, and Coping video, and in the Purple Crying app because you may be able to reduce the crying by as much as 50% or more. The second P in the word purple stands for pain-like face. Although your baby will cry if he or she is in pain, not all crying is due to pain. Your baby may look like they're in pain when crying, even if he or she is not. The L is for the fact that crying bouts can be long-lasting. Some can continue for 1 or 2 hours in length. Healthy, thriving babies can cry as much as 5 or 6 hours a day and still be perfectly normal. The E is for the fact that crying tends to cluster in the evening or the late afternoon, just when parents are the most tired. Not ideal, but good to know and prepare for. Finally, the word period helps to remind parents that the crying does not last forever. It eventually will end. All of these characteristics of crying are frustrating. They are frustrating in and of themselves. When they all occur at the same time, it can be terribly overwhelming for parents, even though the baby is totally normal and healthy.
I just think we stress so much about trying to figure out what's wrong. And so by knowing there's nothing wrong, then you're not stressing anymore. You're not having like those fearful thoughts anymore. You're not spending hours on Google or hours going to stores trying to buy products that you don't really need. Instead, you can just really stay at home, really enjoy your baby, go for a walk or spend time with your partner, just tag teaming, whatever you need to do.
It is very important to know that it's normal, that you will feel these things as a parent, and please talk to somebody and always feel free to walk away and ask for help.
Just knowing that it was a period and that it was going to be a temporary period would have given me a goal to set in my mind, just to know that, okay, this is normal. This is going to continue, but I can reach for the day that I can have that peace of mind, just knowing that it's only temporary. It's not going to last forever.
So the day started like every other morning. We took him, we got up, got dressed, got ready to take him to daycare or to the person that was watching him. And as soon as we walked in the door, he started fussing, and that kind of had been happening periodically. About 1:30, I got a call from her saying that Lincoln had stopped breathing.
Many parents and caregivers do not know about the period of purple crying and don't know what to do when feeling overwhelmed. Sadly, in a moment of extreme frustration and anger, a caregiver may react by violently shaking the baby. Frustration with infant crying is the leading trigger for shaken baby syndrome.
Shaken baby syndrome, also known as abusive head trauma, is a condition that occurs when a frustrated parent or caregiver violently shakes a baby. This shaking causes the infant's head and brain to rapidly move back and forth in a whiplash-type motion. This violent movement causes bleeding and swelling of the brain. It can also cause bleeding in the back of the eyes. Shaking a baby is extremely dangerous and can often be fatal. In 70 to 80% of cases of abusive head trauma, the baby will have significant neurologic injury and developmental deficits. In about 20 to 30% of cases, the baby will die.
I had a lot of questions and just in a lot of shock. And she wasn't able to provide me any answers. And so a paramedic got on the phone and had said that they were taking him to the hospital.
Yeah, and so from there it was just trying to get to see him, which was really difficult because at that point he was hooked up to all sorts of tubes. He wasn't the boy we dropped off that morning, that's for sure. Some of the injuries he had a fractured femur, he had a skull fracture, bleeding in his brain.
Old blood and new blood.
In our opinion, it was not the first time, it's just the time that she went too far. And then over the next few days, it was, like I said, testing to see if he had any activity in his brain, see if he could breathe on his own. And ultimately said he wasn't going to survive. And so we had to make that decision of, when to turn the machines off.
This is Nikki, and she is a shaken baby survivor. She was shaken by her biological father when she was 6 weeks old. We took her home from the hospital as our 59th foster child and ended up adopting her a couple years later. They knew clearly from the beginning that it was definitely not accidental child abuse. They said she would have global delays. She wasn't going to eat, she wasn't going to walk, she wasn't going to talk, any of that. They expected her not to see. So we knew taking her home from the hospital that she would have a lot of issues. She was eating at that point, still drinking a bottle, but that didn't even last real long. So no, we knew clearly that the brain damage was very extensive.
In the heat of the moment, it may be difficult to think of how you should react to the frustration you are feeling. There are 3 action steps you can take when your baby starts to cry.
The first thing to do when your baby starts to cry is increase soothing activities. Hold your baby, walk with your baby, talk to your baby, change the environment by going outside with your baby or even just heading back inside. Most of the time, your soothing efforts will work, but sometimes they won't. That is okay and normal. When soothing doesn't work, it doesn't mean you aren't a good parent. In fact, your efforts and focus on soothing your baby make you an amazing parent. Secondly, if the crying continues and it becomes frustrating for you, it is absolutely okay to put your baby in a safe place, like a crib, and walk away for a little bit. Take a break from that intensity that comes with crying. Check on your baby often, but it's okay to let your baby cry for a few minutes while you take the opportunity to calm yourself down. Thirdly, never shake or hurt your baby. It is completely normal to feel overwhelmed and frustrated when your baby's crying goes on and on. How you respond to your frustration is what matters. Shaking a baby won't make the crying any better.
There is something else that you will want to be thinking about during these first few weeks and months of your baby's life, and that is who you will choose to care for your baby when you are not around.
It is important that you select someone whom you can trust and who will not be easily frustrated by crying. You will also want to talk with them and anyone caring for your baby about the period of purple crying.
The thing I would want people to know is that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to put a baby down that's crying. It's okay to have hard conversations with about how you're feeling.
We all get frustrated. But that's one thing I can tell any new parents: you're gonna get frustrated. They're gonna cry. They're not gonna be quiet when you want them to. There's gonna be times where you're gonna get frustrated, and it's okay to walk away. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Your baby's not gonna remember 5 minutes that you walked away. They're still gonna love you. They're still gonna want you to hold them. So that's what I'd want them to know, is it's okay.
Whomever you choose to care for your baby should know that it is always okay to call or contact you if they're starting to feel frustrated. This is not a conversation to make them feel you don't trust them, but by letting them know that you know how frustrating crying can be on anyone, you can form a conversation to make sure that they know that they are supported and that you are always available when needed.
No parent imagines that they or anyone else would ever shake or harm their baby, and most parents do not expect that their baby will cry so much that it will be upsetting.
I honestly didn't expect her to cry half as much as she did. And everyone told me, oh, my baby just goes right to sleep. Or when I had babies, they would just go to sleep at night. I would rock them at night. And that really didn't work for us. It made me feel really sad. It made me feel like I was doing something wrong, or that something was wrong with her. And I was like, is she hurting? Why is she so fussy?
Some babies will cry a lot, and some babies won't cry as much. It can make comparisons to other babies that much more painful if you have a baby who cries a lot. However, increased early crying is absolutely normal and not a parent's fault. It is only natural to be overwhelmed by the crying. What matters most for parents is what you do when you feel frustrated.
Well, I definitely would reach my limit. Like, I feel like I would usually be like, okay, I'm gonna feed her and I'll try for a little bit. But I would have to be like, okay, take her for a minute because I'm getting so frustrated.
Patience is a virtue, and that with time, they're new to everything. Everything's so new to them. So this whole new experience for them is new to you as well. So just go into it knowing that you're going to grow together, and it's all right. It's going to be all right. They grow up.
Although it may seem like it's going to last forever, it is important to remember that the crying will end. We often hear from other parents that when raising a child, sometimes the days are long and the years are short. And before you know it, they're going to be going off to kindergarten. The long days parents are talking about are often the high crying days. Thankfully, the days turn into weeks and crying will improve. Parents need to know that if ever you have any concerns about your baby's crying, you should have them examined by a healthcare provider. If everything is found to be normal, you know that your baby is going through the period of purple crying.
I would say just like don't forget to enjoy the good parts, right? Don't forget to enjoy when your baby is happy, or don't forget to remember that they are going to grow out of it and you don't want to do something that would impede their development. I just think about all the times that I was frustrated, how just like one little shake or one little bout of anger could really hurt her long term. And I feel like that would be something really hard to live with. So I can deal with the crying or, those temporary hardships. And I would never want to do anything to cause like lasting impacts on her.